Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. We're gonna get started here. Before I introduce my panelists, my name is Amy Perrin. I head up our strategic solutions. And in one sentence, my friends, what's the most expensive mistake you made before you built or refined your data foundation?
So our most expensive mistake was only using our customer data for reporting. So when we started to use it to activate for actual marketing, we saw double-digit lifts in our ROI on our marketing campaigns, initially in paid media. We saw, by leveraging Amperity, we saw a third of the time in order to bring campaigns to market. And all of those campaigns were tremendously more targeted or personalized than they ever were before. And all of that drove tremendous growth for us. But initially, we were barely scratching the surface with using any of our customer data.
Emma?
Similar to Sarah, our most expensive mistake was waiting so long to actually access and leverage our data through the marketing lens. And even though we had to convince the business to invest in a CDP platform like Amperity, we also had to expand our capability in the team and bring on new heads. But I am pleased to say that investment more than washes its face.
Cool. I'll struggle to be PC with this one. Our most expensive mistake was our entire first CDP implementation. That was done with SAP Marketing Cloud. And again, it was a logical solution at the time. Our business is 120 years old. We've been a SAP house for as long as I can remember. It seemed like it would be scalable, modular. It would integrate with our strategy nicely. And we definitely looked at the Gartner quadrants when we were doing that. 12 months later, we didn't have a functional CDP console.
All right, now that we've spilled the tea, as the kids say, can you all introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. Sarah Panicelli from Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. If you're not familiar, world's largest franchisor, over 8,000 properties across more than 90 countries.
I am Emma Caneva, General Manager of Marketing in the digital space, looking after digital marketing, membership and CRM. I'm at JB Hi-Fi, which is Australia's largest consumer electronics business. Think of it like a Best Buy, but crazier looking shops.
Nice. I'm Devin. I come from South Africa. I work for a company called Pepkor. We're a multidisciplinary retailer in sub-Saharan Africa and South America with 6,500 physical stores and a burgeoning online e-commerce and traction ability.
Perfect. All right, everyone. So now that we see that the data foundation needs to be built no matter where you are in the world, let's learn a little bit more about that. So Emma, you discovered that 1 in 5 transactions could be tied to a known customer. And once you uncovered that, your customers turned out to be nearly twice as valuable as originally thought. Can you walk us through that moment of realization?
Absolutely. So our transactional data was sitting in IT engineering silos, so online, in-store and phone sales were all separate, and they each had individual IDs per transaction with no concept of customer identity. So before we could even contemplate accessing and using a CDP platform like Amperity, we actually spent a number of months harmonising our data in a Snowflake instance. And then we plumbed that into Amperity and were able to recognise that single view of customer, unlocking that 1 in 5 being attributed to a customer, which then allowed us to navigate into our personalisation goals of attached communications, upgrade communications, ecosystem communications, and RFM. And the 3 key insights were the customers with our messiest data are actually our most valuable data. They shop across channel, they shop across category, they have more than 1 email address, more than 1 mobile number, and they have more than 1 address for delivery purposes. The second thing we unlocked was our most valuable customers were actually twice the value, which is really important for us to know in the business. And the third thing we unlocked was not only this concept of single customer view, but we extrapolated that out to a household view. So to understand value of household, brand affinity, category affinity, and what the shape of that household looks like is also really important for us in delivering on those personalisation goals.
Yeah, we hear this so often. It's so much more than co-location or just getting the data together. That unification piece is really the unlock. And what we find is that understanding how much your customers are actually valued, understanding where they actually are in their life cycle journey, those are the pieces that really matter as you think about when, where, how, what message you're sending to your customers. So unification is really the foundation. We know that it also takes alignment across your teams. And so Sarah, working at a company like Wyndham where your teams have different systems, different priorities, can you share a bit about how you built internal buy-in? And once you had it, what's an example of something that unlocked for the business?
Yeah, so we had a little different start. Our data also was in transactional silos owned by our traditional kind of more data IT teams. And instead of harmonizing anything before we started with Amperity, we really simply went to IT and said, can you just feed the most important data into this CDP that us marketers have discovered and we feel like we really need? And then we'll leave you alone. So automate the data, send it over. The CDP will do the identity resolution for marketing needs. Don't worry, we're not going to change anything on the business side, on the financial side for sure also. And then we'll leave you alone. That was the initial kind of sell for Amperity, was we'll stop having so many requests and desires and needs for data. And they said, great, so we'll embark on this single project. You get your data, you go do your thing, and leave us alone. So that's how we began. And then we moved into a place of really starting to activate and use the data and move to sharing those wins. And then you kind of have to go on a little bit of a PR campaign and build those relationships by showing to the other people in the organization, here's the opportunities, here's what we're starting to unlock. And we're at a space now where we have an amazing relationship with our data team. There's several of them who are here today, which 3 years ago when I was at a conference like this, they didn't even care to, it just wouldn't even have been a conversation to come. So it takes some time, but there is an evolution. One of the big unlocks for us as a hotel loyalty company, member rewards are very common. You have a lot of information about your members, and we in third-party black boxes, we had done some work in targeting and personalizing for our members. But having all of the data, literally all of the data, members and non-members, together in one place, it really allowed us to unlock new marketing opportunities for our non-members. It was a complete segment of our guests that we never really did anything but basic batch and blast. And now we could start to mine those people to discover who's going to become a member, who likely will never become a member, and that's okay. So stop asking them to do that. And so it was a journey for sure.
And I think that alignment piece is so big in moving to activation. So to make this successful, the foundation is really about unifying your data. It's about aligning your teams, and then you unlock activation. It brings us right back to the initial most expensive problem that we wish we had solved, is moving to activation faster. And so Devin, speaking of unlocks for the business on that activation side, can you give us one use case that you can do today that wasn't possible 18 months ago?
There are so many of them. If you ask me next week, I might give you a different answer. But right now, the one that I'm most excited about is the fact that we're able to monetize the outputs of the predictive models that we're running in Amperity. So these models are things that we built internally for our own use. They predict things like churn, loyalty, life stages, and competitor purchases from our customers. But we're now able to commercialize these and make them accessible to our retail media customers. And that's really exciting for us. That definitely wouldn't have happened 18 months ago. So it's allowing for early targeting of these customers, and it's allowing us to track the behavioral changes that are actually happening as a result of our advertising. We're realizing commercial value from it, but it's not just about screwing our retail media clients. It's about unlocking value for our customers with more personalized, targeted advertising. It's about unlocking value for the client with increased sales. And it's about generating an additional income stream for us as a business in the form of retail media sales.
That's great. I mean, I love that we start with brand marketing and then we find new avenues for revenue. I think there's a lot of opportunity, both internally and to use that data that's unified across partners. So Emma, coming back to you, one of the big unlocks for JB Hi-Fi relates to attach campaigns. So walk us through your approach, because the timing mechanisms here are actually very sophisticated and thought through. And so we'd love to spend a little bit more time learning about that and how Amperity let you know when to send that accessory email, not just who to send it to.
In our business, we have a philosophy of not just selling the customer the primary product that they've come into a store for. We want to sell them a solution to make sure that primary product is a better experience for that customer. So think about buying a TV. We will assess if a customer has purchased at the same time complementary attached products like a wall mounting bracket, a sound bar, cords or cables that they might need, or even an installation service. And if they've already kind of done that job, we've probably squeezed that lemon, for as much juice as we can, so let's not put them in the bucket for an attached communication. But then we also look at, when did the customer actually have their TV in their home? Did they buy a smaller unit, like a 55-inch, and they walked out with it in the back of their ute? Or did they get it delivered? Was it delayed delivery because the product wasn't in stock? Or did they order an installation service, which is sometimes a double knock facility post-delivery? And we use that timing infrastructure to make sure that that attached communication is sent at the most timely and relevant moment for that customer. And so for us, being able to have that timeliness and relevancy is unlocking incremental sales for the business that wouldn't have occurred otherwise, but also gives the customer the best solution that they can have.
I have to say, we don't call them attach campaigns. A lot of times we'll call them upsell campaigns, especially on the travel side in the US. But I find those like customer service communications. It's the worst to get home with your equipment and realize that you forgot a cord. So I tremendously appreciate those as a guest. On the travel side, we think of this in two different parts of your journey life cycle, right? So several days before you're going on your stay, we have pre-stay communications, and there are you can use your rewards points for partnerships to enhance that trip with experiences. You can earn points through the experiences through some of our partnerships. Also reminding people at their loyalty level, these are some of the benefits that you get on property, so make sure you're enjoying those benefits, deepening that engagement with those members and guests. In stay, we also have a concept of, oh, you're just about to arrive, do you want to prepay for early check-in or a late checkout? So those are other upsell concepts. And those, we make sure to attach those to the profile in Amperity, so that we're enriching those so that the next communication is just that much smarter. We know you always pay the extra pet fee, so let's promote these hotels. Let's encourage you to stay at all of our hotels wherever your destination is that are all pet friendly. So we kind of use not only the trigger to get you to purchase more, but we also enhance your profile so that we're having more personalized, smarter communication in the future.
Yeah, it is interesting. So electronics and hospitality are big ticket items, right? That maybe aren't purchased as frequently as jeans or as shoes. And so, Emma, can you go a little bit deeper there into frequency and how you've been using Amperity to understand when is the best time to reach out and increase that frequency of purchase?
Sure. So in consumer electronics, the frequency data that you might get in FMCG or even apparel just isn't there, right? So we have to use longitudinal data to understand when a customer might be in market to upgrade a TV, a mobile phone, a laptop. And so we use that multi-year purchase history, which we have in Amperity, to determine when we can maybe bring that upgrade cycle forward in a sweet spot. And then we partner with our brands to have exclusive incentives as well as part of that. So being able to leverage that purchase history, we can then also layer on through Amperity's real-time tables recent web browsing behaviour. So we can align that history along with active intent as an additional layer for relevant audiences, not only to inject the right information into an email channel, but also plumb that into Meta and Google to provide a kind of more cross-channel experience for upgrade. And again, that's getting to the customer at the right time in the right place, which unlocks incremental sales that we wouldn't have garnered before.
Right. It's so much more than identity and just unifying data. It's ensuring that we have the right behavioral signals so that we can reach out to customers at the right time with the right message. And bringing that all into Amperity really powers those experiences across channels. I mean, we talked about RMN, we've talked about our owned. And Sarah, I'm going to look back at you, and we have so many amazing case studies about the work that Wyndham has done in paid channels. And so we'd just love to learn a little bit more about that. You went from static audience segments to hundreds of dynamic paid media audiences. And so with that increase in speed, how did that change how you spend, and how did you prove ROI?
So we have much more targeted paid media audiences now, and we're working towards connecting what we're doing in the paid media channels and the owned channels. If those conversations that you're having with your guest are disconnected, there's opportunities for collisions of messages, or you're losing trust of your guest, right? And so we're have a long-standing paid media activation from Amperity, and now thinking through the rest of that marketing ecosystem and our MarTech stack. How do we ensure that that conversation is cohesive, no matter where you are across your life cycle or which technology you're interacting with? Because all of that's agnostic to the guest.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, switching gears slightly, I want to go back to the net new revenue streams, because I think that's a new opportunity that people are exploring. So quick show of hands in the room, if you're brave. How many of you, when you started your digital transformation journey, thought about net new revenue streams and how you could use your first-party data to create revenue beyond your brand? It's relatively new, right? It's definitely the next frontier. And so really quickly, Sarah, coming back to you, we know that you're on that journey with Wyndham now. And so curious, when you look at, data monetization opportunities, a lot of times people would think media networks. And media networks, much like credit cards or partnerships, take teams, and they take a lot of resources to stand up. And so what's Wyndham doing today? You're taking a different approach where you're really able to expand your revenue business, but not, or scale across your teams. You're not adding additional headcount.
Yeah, so we do not have a retail media network team. That doesn't exist in Wyndham. But leadership obviously is starting to understand the value of our guest data, not just for activating on marketing, but also the value in the larger ecosystem. And so we do have what we call an ancillary revenue team. They're very partnership focused. And so an ancillary revenue idea is kind of reselling our data for other paid media folks who want to reach our audiences. And so the ancillary revenue team has developed partnerships in that ecosystem, and they know the partnership realm very well. My team knows the data really well. And so our two teams have come together to discover a new superpower in the organization, in that we bring those teams together and leveraging some of the newer tools within Amperity, letting the technology do the heavy lifting, and we can realize the value of that data without expanding the team tremendously. And so a partnership in technology is what's helped us really bring that to life in a meaningful way for the organization.
And you're doing that across a public marketplace, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right, and so you don't necessarily need the team. You're able to send your data and have access.
That's right.
To partners. That's incredible. And so you're able to just leverage the headcount that you have.
Yep, exactly, yeah.
Devin, I want to come back to you on the media network side, because if you have a team in place, unified data can really make a difference. And so, we know that there's a massive upside to media networks. They're very high margin businesses, but many retailers and commerce brands now are still figuring out how to compete, especially with massive media networks like Walmart or Amazon. And so where is Pepkor in this journey? And what does having a strong first-party data foundation actually change about the opportunity?
So we were established in the space long before I came along. We'd been running retail media for decades. And this was done through multiple different departments. A team was established. But we got to a point, a point where it was tapering off in terms of its value to the business. And after our initial case studies came out with Amperity, certain key drivers like customer data, real-time analytics, and digital innovation were seen by the business as the biggest drivers in retail media expansion going forward. So that retail media team was moved into my structure, which is a digital data and analytics structure, to scale and grow going forward. Now, we operate in a highly competitive market. Our retail media customers are international brands. They often have a set budget for our region. So if we want to grow, we have to take market share from our competitors. And we can only do that by offering better solutions than they do. Now, sales is always going to be an important driver when it comes to getting retail media budget from one of your vendors. But there's another aspect to this that can be unlocked, and that's in providing leading-edge tech and innovation to them. That's where they see the potential for future growth in their brands, in your market. And our retail media operations, I'm proud to say, have doubled in profitability in the last year as a result of this new focus on digital tech and innovation as a selling tool for customer data.
That's great. And unifying your data, it allows both better targeting, it enables attribution, so online and offline sales. It's really providing that full feedback loop so that you can be successful in a highly competitive but high margin area. So love hearing the success that Pepkor has had. All right, we have a lot of folks in different parts of their journey in the room. And so my last question for our panelists is, for someone who is 12 months behind you, so not necessarily maybe starting out on the journey, maybe a little bit further along in the journey with Amperity, what's one thing you recommend that they do and why? Emma, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I'm going to sing from the same hymn book as Laurie did earlier today, and I would always advocate for a really strong framework that firstly aligns your use cases across your stakeholder set, even if it's cross-collaboratively, and then focus on high-impact use cases to market really quickly, and then scale and optimise over time. For us, it was attach, upgrade, ecosystem, and RFM, and that might be different in all of your businesses. But I think the key takeout is in market and 80% perfect is way more powerful than waiting for 100% perfection, which is never going to happen.
Yeah, fail fast, right? Fail fast to learn fast. All right, Devin.
So obviously your CDP implementation is so much more than just retail media, but we've touched on that today in this panel, so that's what I'd like to focus on. I think that a lot of businesses are not aware of the opportunity that's present from a commercial and a scale perspective in terms of their customer data. So I would encourage you, if you're wondering about retail media, to sit down with a prospective vendor or a client, run a workshop with them, understand their business, what position they're in, their market share, and their strategy for the future. Take that data back and overlay it with the customer data that you have in your organization so that you can identify potential opportunities for them with your collaboration around retail media. Once you've got their response from that, and I really do think that it will be a positive one that will surprise you, take that response back to the business and use that to motivate for the investment or the focus that you need on your CDP and your customer data strategy. This is not a cost center. It's the foundation of the strategic implementations that you'll do in future, and it also represents an additional profit incentive in the form of retail media.
I love that. Really comes back to this idea of unification is the foundation, and alignment then is that second piece that can enable faster activation, but not necessarily just for your brand, but also on the monetization side. And so kind of brings us right back to the beginning. And then Sarah, do you want to close us out here?
Sure. Very similar advice as Emma. I think you're starting with your use cases, having really tight use cases is critically important, and also making sure those use cases are very understandable and digestible by everybody throughout the organization. They should align to your business and be solving for problems that are familiar to everyone in the organization. If you get really techie and really data specific and nerdy, you'll lose the room. And so you need to be able to sell the use case and make it very tangible to the problems that the entire business is solving for. The other part to include in that business case is why you're blocked or what this will unlock. So yes, I will be able to do this, but this is why I can't do it today. And if I were to do it today, it would be subpar or take a ton of resources or the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze. And so I think having a really strong use case is super important. And then you build from there, right? There's the use case that you sell to get it over the finish line or get the investment. But typically, as marketers, we'll have 100 more use cases, right? So you get one in market quickly and you sell those wins. And don't wait for perfection. That is probably the number one advice in life.
Yeah. In life. I love that. Thank you for such an impactful and profound statement at the end there. But no, I mean, this is probably not surprising to anyone in terms of what we need to do, but there's so much that can be unlocked. And I think coming back to building that business case and ensuring that you're thinking about the ROI and really articulating the problems, the gaps, the unlocks, so that you can move quickly, that's what's going to make the difference. And so it's really ensuring that you have alignment and an ROI story that you can tell so you can start and expand. I think we all get a little overwhelmed with giant projects that we're trying to work on, and the key is breaking them down so that you can actually start to move the needle. So I just want to take a moment and thank our panelists for their time, everything that they've shared. We are going to have another panel or presentation right after this one, so take a few minutes, ask us questions, converse among yourselves, but know that that will get started right away. Thank you.